Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. Yes, we do have a .com site if you're wondering where we talk more in depth about some of the comics that come out. And, you know, you would really help us out a lot if you'd just, read it every once in a while. I know you already are. There are other ways to help us out, and I'm not going to beg, but one of them's watching this channel. And we thank you for being here. We have a special guest with us tonight. I was just watching him over on Purchase channel, and if you are not subscribed to Comics Perch, you should be, because you will get some of the more in-depth industry analysis and fun at poking at comics than you will on almost any other channel on the internet. So definitely head over there and do that after this. He'll always be there. With us tonight, we have Clint Stoker, who's just launched his third volume of Downcast. Clint, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. I talked to you before, but I want to do it publicly as well and apologize. Every time I do these streamathons on channels, I try to make sure I have all the times correct because everybody's in different time zone, and I kind of messed up here a little bit, including with the runtime of Purchase stream. So apologies for that, but I'm happy to be streaming with you.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and I hope you have a good supply of bottled water, because you're going to be you have been balls to the wall streaming lately because of the launch of Downcast 3 Submerged.
Yeah.
And by the way, the title that folks saw on the thumbnail, that's RJ fan lettering. That's not the title.
I love how you have the 3 in there for the E.
Well, I got the idea from your own chat the other day when you were talking about doing Downcast 4, and I just threw it into the chat, down C4ST.
Yeah.
And then somebody else had forecast, which I thought was much better. But
yeah, forecast. I like that too.
So I'm just looking at the numbers here. Did a real quick look back at Downcast 1 and 2. Downcast 1 ended at 31,000 with 924 backers. Number 2 ended at 43,000 with 900. Okay, I'm reading cross-eyed. 924, then 941. You went from 31,000 to 43,000. Right now, you've got a third of the backers already in place. You're at 17,000. Is your backer tracker forecasting that you're going to blow past the level you hit with number 2?
It's a little tough. I do follow backer tracker, but it doesn't give you very accurate numbers until probably the end of week 2 of the campaign, because it has to factor in your slow time. So today has really begun the slow, grindy climb that gets a lot of creators really, anxious and frustrated with what the backers coming in. And so I think that we're on track for number 2 based off of day 1 and day 2 numbers. It's very similar to Downcast number 2 and what we were getting there, but with one fairly major difference. And that is that we haven't yet sold the original cover for Downcast 3. So if you think about that, that's an extra $1,000 lead that both Downcast 1 and 2 had in the first day, the first few hours, really, that we sold the original covers for each respective campaign. So the fact that we still have the cover means that we raised more money off of regular backers by $1,000, which is actually impressive. And so whether the cover sells or not is not really important to me. It more has to do with these are just regular backers on our average backer.
Yeah.
amount that has pulled us up to that same level. So
which would imply that you've got more backers at this point in the game than you did the last time at this same point.
it's very similar to the number of backers we had on Downcast 2. So it's close. The average backer dollar amount is slightly up. And then we have slightly fewer backers on this one, but I would think that the difference is negligible. It's really close.
Well, one of the things I was holding off on until you could get on the stream here, because I didn't want to go live, without you, because
I get
it would
it.
be totally dead air. But I got a box in the mail today, and I've been dying to unbox it. To do the live unboxing here.
Oh, you got stickers, huh? I'm guessing.
I got stuff from Sticker Mule. Yeah, the tape is recognizable, and I cannot. I know kind of what's in here, but I can't wait to show it off. First of all, we got bubble wrap, so that's a night's entertainment right there.
Oh yeah.
I know what's in here. This is a special tube.
You got hot sauce, maybe?
I got hot sauce.
Heck yeah.
It was free. Free hot sauce. Have you had their hot sauce yet?
Yeah, I ordered stickers. A total surprise. I ordered stickers once, and I guess it was enough to get hot sauce. So I got hot sauce, and it's okay. It's pretty good.
I will put it right here, right on my coaster, which happens to have their mules from my last order. So okay, what have I have got these big white bags.
Okay, nice. Very cool. Is that like a bag you'd get in the comic shop? Or are they syllable bags? Oh, they are syllable. Oh, that's nice. I don't hear you. I think you're muted.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I did pull the cord right out with the box.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a sealable bag. This fits a Gemini mailer. So the Gemini mailer will slide down in here.
Oh.
And then it will be sealed. And then when it arrives on your doorstep, you will know that Red Eyes 2 has arrived. And it'll be, like an event kind of thing to hopefully people be unbagging.
Keeps the water out too.
It does keep the water out. This was something we did for the first 5 customers that we loaded up on our as part of our Critical Blast logistics. We're helping the the international shippers by doing drop ships. So we have, if you've seen Kimasabi's The Company Men, that has been.
I don't think so.
It's coming out of Australia. It's a real cool looking book.
Okay.
But because he consulted with us first and he's using our services, it's shipping from Australia for $10.
Wow.
Yes. So that's the big thing here.
That is a really big deal.
And then we've got the other one. We have our books for our covers for the Embrace. Also bags, just more of them. Oh, nice. I love the smell of melty plastic.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm going to be high the rest of the night. So that's what we got. And if you guys were watching the stream and you got your sneak peek, otherwise I'll take photos and send it to both of you guys later and let you know what we got.
Nice.
We've already got questions for you. Something about you denouncing Kickstarter in this stream. Is there?
It's probably based on when I was just on with Perch. They're asking Kickstarter versus Indiegogo, and I have several reasons why I prefer Indiegogo over Kickstarter. The least of which is I've made a number of videos being very critical of Kickstarter. So there's that too.
Sure. Well, and you're doing that from the creator standpoint, the way that you use the system. I prefer Indiegogo as a customer because I pay for a lot of stuff with my PayPal card when I'm paying online. And it's, I'll do a stream like this with you, and then when it's over, I'm like, okay, can I back this thing right now? I look at PayPal, I'm like, yes, I can. And I say, Indiegogo, take my money. And Indiegogo says, yes, we will. When I'm on Kickstarter and talking with somebody, I'm like, and I don't do this anymore, but I'd had this happen. I was like, hey, okay, Kickstarter, take my money. And Kickstarter said, we'll think about it. And then 3 weeks later, I'm doing another interview. I'm like, oh, look, I have money in PayPal. Indiegogo, take my money. And then Kickstarter comes back the next day and says, hey, where's that money you said we could have? Like, why didn't you take it 3 weeks ago? Because they don't take it until they fulfill.
Yeah.
So that was why I really didn't like Kickstarter to begin with. And then this past week, they gave me another reason not to like them. Because people who started using BackerKit for their campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess there's a valid benefit to the creator using BackerKit. But when I get a notice that, hey, we're ready to fulfill the book and you need to pay us money for shipping now, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's a surprise. BackerKit reached out to me. They do this every campaign, but you have a campaign, it gets funded, and then BackerKit will send you an email saying, hey, we're here, and they want to cut, clearly their business. But my experience as a backer with BackerKit was the same thing. You thought you're good with shipping, and then now you have to pay an extra cost, and then it's annoying. So Indiegogo, again, this is another point for Indiegogo, but you can do add-ons, you can still do upsells, but it's in the campaign. And so you got to make that purchasing decision once when you back it. And, it has everything there. So.
And I think a lot of people are going to start using the add-ons more as they design their campaigns. I know the add-ons have been there for a while, but I think they've really sort of perfected how they get used now because they were kind of confusing before. I really think that campaigns within the near future are going to be, here's the book. And you're not going to have to figure out, well, how many permutations do I have to put out here for tiers so that they can get the book and the bookmark and the T-shirt, or the book and the T-shirt, or the bookmark and the T-shirt. That just drives you crazy.
And it's almost better because it's more like a shopping cart that way. This is my first time using add-ons, and it's been huge. I think now it's like I can't go back. I have to use add-ons because there's so many different, like you say, permutations, and you're going to get backers saying, hey, I want this, but I want this too. You need a tier for that. And with the add-ons, you just say, back whatever you want essentially and add on what you need.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to make fulfillment. I imagine it's going to be a pain.
I'll tell you how it makes fulfillment, because guess what? We do fulfillment.
You're doing it.
And I have already, we didn't do the fulfillment, but we did like the pre-fulfillment and consulting for Florida Man. And they did it on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And they had also a website where they sold a few copies through that. So I got all 3 of the spreadsheets that came in at once. And, fortunately, I'm a 30-year IT guy, and I have SQL Server at my fingertips, and I just formulated all the data. But for people who, don't have me or that kind of skill set, your spreadsheet from Indiegogo is going to be different than, here are my tiers. Because it's going to be, here's your CSV is going to be, here's your ad. Maybe I should go this way so it looks good on screen. Here's your address, and here's your buyer and how much they spent. And then it's like item, because that's what they picked on the tier. Well, with the add-ons, you get another line with the same backer ID, and it's the same address, $0, got all rolled up into the one above it. And here's the item. And then there'll be a line for each item that they added on. So you have your main line that could have multiple items on it, and then one per each after that for each add-on. And if you're not watching it, or you don't know how to sort that together, you're going to mess it up, and you might skip a line. I could go into a real long dissertation on data flow and how I took it from a horizontal stack to everything in a vertical stack, and then recompressed everything back to a horizontal stack, so it was one line. But nobody wants to hear that.
I might, though, when I'm at that phase. It's that's been a worry of mine. Is so a big part of my process has been, okay, now we're working on the collector bundle tier right now. So we're going to pack all these packages exactly the same. And then when we're finished, we're going to stick the shipping labels on. But now it's like you have to be very aware of what each order is and what their package looks like, and that they match.
Exactly. Well, what we did for Florida Man, when we did the spreadsheets like that, I then grouped them so that everything that was the same on one row got put together, and we gave that a pack ID. So we said, this is IGG-FM-1. And then we sorted them by that so that when we printed the pack lists, Yes, we printed a mail merge pack list with the Florida Man logo on it for all 800 of them. And then he could print those out. They came out in order, so he could say, okay, these top 15 are all group 1. Hand that to somebody, say, here, make 15 of these. And the next, 37 were group 2. Somebody go pack up, 37 of these.
That's smart.
But yeah, definitely, like you said, it's what we do. Pick one thing first, put it all together, and then package them up. So you can do it mindlessly.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm gonna take that idea and add like subcategories, like you say, the 1, 2, or whatever, A, B, C. It's a good idea.
Just sort them together. It makes your life a lot easier. And I fear that there are people out there doing campaigns that are like, they're just following the spreadsheet in order. They got it. Okay, the first guy, he gets this, this, and this. And that's why it's probably taken them like, 3 months to fulfill a campaign. Whereas, a little bit of strategy, you can fulfill it in a week.
Yeah. It's cut any little corners you cut for time. Obviously, you want them packed nice and everything, but you're definitely getting a workflow to make it work in a quick, efficient way. And if you can cut out steps, that's that's a good way to go. My first campaign was a little bit of a mess because we were learning, but it ended up being less. It definitely took a lot more time just because we're figuring it out.
Yeah, but that's that touches on one of the really cool things about all this crowdfunding, and whether it's CG crowdfunding or other crowdfunding, everybody's helping each other out. And people who are getting into their first campaigns and they're stumbling around, they can call up you, well, not call, but they can chat you up on Twitter or on your campaign, say, hey, how did you do this? Because this is what I want to do, and you did something similar. Or, they can consult with us about, hey, how can I get all this put together before I launch my campaign? And they help each other. That's something that, the big industries didn't do with each other. They were in competition. They wanted to destroy each other.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mentioned in my video today, I get questions all the time on how do you do crowdfunding? Primarily it's that. It's like, how do I get funded? And it's funny because on one hand, you're like, am I going to share all of my expertise, my experience with a potential competitor? You know what I mean?
Sure.
But then at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I would have loved to have somebody right at the get-go that was helping me and giving me advice. And I've had a little bit of that over the years, but it wasn't really until getting into Comicsgate and meeting all the creators here that I started getting advice freely like that. So for me, it's pretty important just I try to be helpful, and it clearly takes a lot of work anyway. Even if you have the right kind of advice, it still takes the person on the other end of that has to do a lot of work. So I figure, I'll just be really open with everything that I know. I think that's what makes it so great right now. Well,
we've talked 20 minutes. We haven't talked about the book. We talked around the book, and I've got it pulled up here. This is, God, I had you on for your first book, and back when you were, just up and comer, and now you're way past me with terms of your channel and your production and everything. I still feel like I'm still playing with the Tinker Toys, but time has just flown past. You're on your third book now.
It's wild. And my fourth campaign, third book in a series. When I think about that, Nacho and I were talking that how we've been working together for like 3 years. It's just weird to think about. So time does fly, but so cool to look back and be building this body of work.
And how big have you planned for this body of work to be? I mean, did you know at the end of issue 1 that we're going to keep going? Or
issue 1 was definitely it was up in the air because it was my first full comic book, my first crowdfunded comic, and so I didn't know if I would be able to do more than just one book. I didn't even know if I'd be able to do one book. So what I did is I took a large idea I had that was a little bit more epic, and I figured out how can I take this story and just do it in one comic book. And then that's the idea, the concept that I went to crowdfunding with. and I launched that, and it did well. And so, during the campaign, at some point, I thought, okay, well, now maybe I can do a second book. So I don't want to end this. I don't want to make it a one shot. I want to, expand it a little bit. Let's leave it a little bit more open. And so that's why, we changed the script and made it a little open ended at the end of the first book. And then the second book was me finishing. Well, we'll do the story arc, trying to be very modest with my steps and progress through the story. So we really resolved it in the second book for the most part. But again, that funded well. I got a lot of really great feedback from readers. And so with Downcast 3, it was like, okay, I'm fully committed now to doing exactly the story I wanted to do in the first place. And so I'm going to make the pacing work for it. We're starting a new story arc, and I'm going to, pull out all the stops and do this exactly how I wanted to. I'm going to pretend like I just got hired by a publisher and I'm doing a full-on comic series. So, so to answer your question, for Downcast, in these crowdfunded volumes, I have right now a total, so it'd be a total of 6 that are planned. So this will be the third one, and then I have 3 more that I would love to do that would tell a pretty epic story, and I would be pretty satisfied as a creator with what I'm able to achieve in that those numbers of books. Of course, you can get canceled by the readers. That's the way that I look at it. So if the series gets canceled by the readers, so to speak, then you roll with the punches. But right now with volume 3, because I had enough profits to fund it and to make it happen before, I went into it very confident, and I just again made it exactly how I wanted it to be, planning on there being a Downcast number 4.
So you made enough on 2, you're saying, to actually pay for 3, and then you're funding 3. So that should speed up production, I would imagine, because I would think it's like underway.
Greatly. Yeah. The book's finished. So we have all the art, all the coloring is finished right now. An editor is editing. And then I said like lettering is greenlit, but Eric's a little busy right now. So I said, okay, well, we'll do editing first. They'll probably be better anyway. So we're going to do editing, go to Eric, get the letters done, go back to editing again.
Yes.
Make sure I got to make sure that it's good. And then we'll go to print. So the plan here is to go to print at the end of these next 27 days. I am going to extend the campaign, just full disclosure, probably for another 2 weeks. And then while that's happening, the book will be at the printer. We'll do the proofing and everything. So by the end of that 2 weeks, I will go ahead and pull the trigger, and the book production should be pretty quick after that. So I really want to get this shipped out fairly soon. I put August as the date that we're going to fulfill, but
that's very aggressive.
It is, but it's partially just, the book's done. I'm using a US printer, and I think if we're getting the book to the printer early, during the campaign, it should work out pretty well. So
yeah. So to that point, I mean, I have found some publishers who go through crowdfunding who are putting out regularly scheduled books. And I talked with some of them on this channel, the guys who put out a book called Miskatonic High on Kickstarter. It's like Lovecraft meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the high school kids. They had 5 issues done before they launched their first one. And wow. Now they're launching issue number 12, but they regularly fulfill every 3 months. There's a book every 3 months now, because they've got the pressure off of them. I don't know if it'll catch up to them or not, but it's successful, and I hope that more people are able to follow that, like you've been able to, with making the money off the first ones and fulfill it. Do you think you're going to crowdfund everything?
For the foreseeable future, yes. But the way that I don't think crowdfunding as it is optimal. And part of that is like the expectation is you're helping me fund the creation of this book, but the wait time is so long, it's just hard to be consistent. From like YouTube, for example, the best way to build a YouTube audience is you're putting out content regularly. and that helps build an audience. With comics, I think it works exactly the same way, and so I'd love to get over to a model like that, or Brian Polito is another great example. So I don't think it's going to be 4 times a year for me, but I think it could be twice a year. And if people know I launch a certain month every year and I fulfill a certain month every year, then I think that's the best scenario. That's a sustainable scenario for it to move forward. And then of course it goes through Alterna Comics, and it's going in sold through Alterna. It's open to comic shops. Distribution's a little strange right now at the moment, but
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's part of a sustainable model. It's just not quite. I'm not quite there, but this is a big step in the right direction.
It's come a long way. I know that when the crowdfunding thing was really first catching on, crowdfunding has been going on since 2014, 15, I want to say, with comics. But when the whole movement really took off in 2017 and 2018, I talked with Tim Lim in a comic shop about this on a stream. And the biggest concern I had was, sustainability. I mean, if you sell a book, but, who's going to come back for your second issue? And, if you're putting out a 22-page comic for $25, and you got to wait a year or a year and a half to get the next one, this is a fad that's not going to stick around. Now, thankfully, I've been proven wrong, because it does look like it's, still a very healthy, independent publishing industry.
Yeah, and I've had my doubts too with crowdfunding, just how much people get fatigue, crowdfunding fatigue. They get sick of it. But I think that's really where, Tim Lim is a good example too, that he's got more of a schedule down, so I think getting to that, people are going to be less fatigued if it's viewed more as a pre-order, like you're ordering the book and you're going to get it in a couple months.
Right.
That limits the wait time. They're still excited about the book when they get it. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of getting a book you backed and it's been so long that you just don't even care about it anymore. I've had those happen. I've
had that kind of sort of happen in by proxy. Somebody got their copy of Red Rooster and they didn't even open it. They just put it out on Twitter, says, "This just arrived. I don't even want it anymore. It's still sealed. Who wants it? $15." I'm like, okay, yeah. So I got somebody else's cast off Red Rooster.
Yeah.
And I'd been forever ago since I'd seen that come out as well, and I was kind of lost all interest. Plus, I'd read the first 2 issues from Walmart, so
right, there's that too. Yeah,
some of the tension off of the whole storytelling. So let's look at what you do have here. I mean, first of all, I think the story setting is interesting for your world here, because Strata is this skybound world. They've reversed gravity. They figured out how to control gravity.
Yeah,
and so they're all living in cloud cities in the sky, sort of like where Lando Calrissian would be found.
Yeah,
and yet you're throwing it deep into the ocean, which is counterintuitive to what you would expect in this world. What drove you to take that kind of a position here to start here?
Yeah, so it's an idea I've had for a while now, and I hinted at it in Downcast Volume 2. I had The Secret History of Strata, which was sort of the extras material. It was sort of a collection of journal entries at the end of the book, and it told a story about this explorer that first found the substance that made them gave them ability to control gravity, and if you ingest it, it's going to make you lose your mind, and but you'll also have some intense powers, and you can't really die. So this character basically gets thrown into the ocean, into a dive. They put him in a diving suit, throw him into the ocean with an anchor, so that they don't have to deal with him, the captain of the ship, because he's lost his mind. And this character's been wandering the bottom of the ocean for a very long time. When he gets to the surface, the world is not what it looked like when he went under in the 1800s. So he sees that most of humanity has fled to the sky, and he wants some revenge for what he's been through. So that's sort of where he comes from and what it's about. I think it's he just has such a cool backstory. I had so much fun with him. He's one that I'd love to do mini series with, to tell more about his story. But yeah, so it's sort of tying all things together. Downcast has been really viewed as a science fiction, and I haven't, like, I hear people say that and I understand, but to me it's not really science fiction. It is the space between science fiction and fantasy, and you're always wondering in the first two installments, like, there's all this, they're always alluding to this fantastic elements out there in these gods, but you don't see any evidence of it. In Downcast 3, it's finally, now we see the other side of the coin, which is the fantastic, fantasy elements of it. And so it's really fun to sort of play. You get to play a little bit in both sandboxes.
Yeah, and he doesn't, at least in any of the panels that have been released, he doesn't ever come out of that diving suit.
No,
even when he's above ground.
He won't. In his backstory, I mean, none of this is seeing print, but if it does well, and people want to see a mini series, you'd have this. He'll take his helmet off once, but in the story, yeah, you're not going to see him take off his diving suit. You imagine he's a guy that's been in that diving suit for hundreds of years, and it kind of adds a little bit to his mystique, and I don't know, it makes for a fun character.
Yeah. I mean, if you take him out now after this, it's like learning Wolverine's real name, or who the Joker's mother was or something. Would be horrible. Keep the mystery in place.
Yeah.
Now this is the start of a new story arc too, right? I mean, are they all the start of a new story arc? I mean, one was self-contained, two was self-contained.
1 and 2 were very much part of the same story arc. 1 left at a pretty big cliffhanger. I always try to have some kind of resolution to give readers, so they have, you want some satisfaction that there's something that's been resolved. But there's a pretty big cliffhanger at the end of 1. At the end of 2, it resolves mostly. It's pretty resolved, except for I think 1 or 2 little loose ends that people could point to. So the way I viewed number 3 is I really tried to think of myself as I'm a brand new writer that got hired to write for Downcast. There's an existing origin story. There's an existing, continuity I have to respect. But what would I do here? Let's start fresh. And so that's the way that I really viewed it. And it does, you're still going to need to read the other 2 books, admittedly, because it's pretty important to just the foundation of the whole series. But this starts a brand new story arc. You've got new problems, new characters, new villains that I've put a lot of work into. And I think it'll make for a new direction that, even if you liked Downcast 1 and 2, I think number 3 is going to be pretty interesting, because it takes things in an entirely different direction.
Yeah, that shark image right there is just that's iconic. That just sticks with you. Him facing down that great white.
Yeah,
and him being unkillable doesn't really enter your mind at the moment. He's like, "Oh, you're toast. You may be unkillable, but you're coming out the back end of that shark someday."
Yeah, well, and the sharks too. Maybe a little spoiler, but if you've read 1 and 2, when you ingest some of this stone, your eyes glow. It has like this glowing effect, and you see that shark, and so it's just a little thing, but there's a little bit more going on, and once you start seeing the connections and I don't know, just lots of fun little things, I think, that are going to make this a much more rich world.
So this is the stone that has the properties in it that allow people to cancel gravity. This reminds me of Cavorite, which I think was either Jules Verne or H.G. Wells. One of those two guys put it in their story, and it was it was how they got to the moon, because they were able to reverse gravity on the rocket ship, and that's how they left. They didn't have propulsion; they went anti-gravity. Very forward thinking. But I have to ask, and I ask this about everything I find out being ingested, like people licking frogs for psychotic episodes.
Yeah.
What in the world made somebody think to do that in the first place? This is a rock, and what made the people think in your world? What happens if?
Yeah. So that's a great question. In the Secret History of Strata, again, I kind of allude to this, but the I'll just give you the whole origin of it. But it's a meteor that crashes down to Earth in the Amazon, and when it does, it's like a very soft metal. It's softer than gold, very soft metal, actually pretty light. And there's this almost mind control temptation power that it has when it's in a very raw form, and so it's almost like it flicks off a dust or like spores,
Okay.
that'll sort of tempt you. So it's a temptation that it's hard to resist, that you got to taste this. Now over the years, the they've learned to refine this stuff, the substance, and so it's in a more manageable state. They go from having a very large meteorite about the size of a car down to the size of the orb that you see in Downcast 1 and 2, or 1, really just in 1, it's about that big. And so it was just a refinement process, and they figured out how to make it safe. And it's so rare, and really only kept in one place in the city. So they keep it away from people. But yeah, in its raw state, it's this temptation that's ever present.
And a little goes a long way, I guess, because it's like he doesn't seem to have to take any more of it to keep his power levels up. He's changed forever.
Yeah, he's permanently changed. He's the first example of somebody that has tasted the stone, and he's come to his senses at least a little bit. So you go into a delirious state when you take it, and the question is, like, because in book 2, in volume 2, you have Rise, the villain, tastes it. He eats some, and you're always wondering, he's lost his mind and he's got something going on inside his head, a real battle going on, and it's hard to figure out. But the question is, like, well, what happens to him? And I don't want to give away what happens to him, but it always, that's one of the loose ends. You're wondering, well, wait a second, if the diver guy here, Monstro's been alive, what about Rise?
Sure.
Where is he? So yeah, it's a bit of a MacGuffin to add the stone, but it really does, I think it's the perfect marriage between science fiction and fantasy. So you could either view it as it's another element that they're learning to control, or the other side of it is that it's a gift from the gods or a curse from the gods, and people are going to deal with it in different ways depending on how they, what their beliefs are around the stone.
Hey, if it's a metal that makes you want to taste it and then it drives you crazy when it's in your head, maybe it's alive and it's an alien. This is how it takes over. But
yeah,
it's a parasite.
You don't know. Yeah.
JF is in the chat, and he's asked the question, he's looking at the rest of entertainment, the trend is to go digital. Not sure how that would work for comics. Do you have any ideas? Well, JF, it actually does work for comics quite well, because Comixology has been doing digital comics for a long time. I don't know if you've explored any of those areas. I will say that I didn't see any PDFs of digital versions on this campaign, at least not where I've scrolled so far. Are you shying away from doing the PDF kind of thing, or?
I've done PDFs for the first 2 based off demand. I think people realize now that because Alterna is publishing it, it's going to be digital with Alterna. And so, yeah, if people want digital of Downcast 3 or all the Downcasts, I totally get that. But I just think it makes more sense to just, when it comes out through Alterna digital, that's a good place to buy it, and it'll save you money too. If that's
let somebody else handle that. That's one less thing you have to do for production.
Right. Yeah. For here, it's like the big part is getting the book printed and all that. So that's sort of the priority.
So this is going to be 80 pages, perfect bound. So the nice square edge spine.
Yep.
Is that big enough to actually print on the spine the name of the book? It's 60 pages.
Yeah, I've done it before. When it's let's see, it was 52. So it ended up being 56 pages of actual printed pages on Downcast 1. It's pretty narrow, but I did it. Downcast 2 is 88 pages. but I used really thick paper stock too. So on this one, I have a lot of people telling me to ease off. We used 100-pound paper stock. So a lot of people told me to ease off because it just kind of gets ridiculous when you're turning pages and it feels like you're turning 2 pages every time. So I think we might go down to 80-pound paper stock. So it's still really thick, but not card stock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get you there. I totally lost the question. My phone flashed in my eye off the side here, and it just sucked the question right out of my head.
Yeah, you're good. You were asking about the width. I don't know if it had anything to do with that, the spine width.
Yeah, I was kind of sort of going there, and then it'll come back to me, I'm sure. But it had to do with design. Yes, I got to look back at your book and design. I'm a font freak. And I find it interesting how people design titles. And I'm just finding a bigger version of it here. If I didn't have a font of something, I wouldn't be able to come up with a title. That's just the way it is. But this is a specially designed one, and I wanted to find out what was the design process for coming up with the Downcast logo, the font you chose, the double slash, all that stuff.
That's a really good question. Man, it feels like a long time ago, but I started out. I tried one out, and I started posting it on Twitter that I designed myself, and immediately people were like, "No, man, this sucks. It's garbage." So I was like, "Okay." And then Illustrator Monk. I don't know if you've ever seen him around on Twitter. So he did just a quick design for me, and is like, "This is better," and I was like, wow, thanks. So I had that, and I started playing with that a little bit and putting it on different images. And then, even still, it just wasn't quite there, not quite what we wanted. So when I got connected with Eric Weathers and I hired him to do the lettering, he designed the logo for me. So I hired him to do it. We had in Illustrator Monk's version, there were some lines, sort of diagonal lines in it. And so Eric took that, incorporated into the new logo. And the new logo is it's almost like it's 2 words, Downcast.
Yeah.
Which gives it more of a square. It takes up more vertical space than it was before, which is actually great, I think, for a comic logo, because you want that logo a little bit bigger on the page so people can see it across the room.
Yeah, and then the 2 words are connected by the downward angled slashes there, so it kind of gives it that motion of down, down. It's kind of like Castaway. Everyone says it was Castaway, but if you look at the title of the posters, it's 2 separate words, and that's on purpose also.
Yeah.
So Downcast, why is that the title? I mean, everything's up, everything's floating, everything's anti-gravity.
Yeah. So I had a different name for it initially. It was actually called Physica initially. It is a long time ago. And before I had art, before I connected with Nacho to do the artwork or anything. And when I had my YouTube channel going, I was talking about making a comic book. I actually asked for help from my audience on the title, and I gave them my idea of Physica, and everyone's like, So it's funny because crowdfunding is such a huge aspect of this, but it's only scratches the surface, because really a lot of the creative kind of push for it has been from the crowd, from YouTube viewers. So I actually asked viewers for titles. They came up with several titles. I told them, these are the kind of themes that I'm looking for. And part of it is being, living in a society that refuses to let you exist in. It's going to be pushing you down. It's, and in the book, there's definitely a political thriller element to the first story arc. And so that's a component of it. So there are a few different ideas that I really liked. Downcast was one. I think one was Spiral Heights, which was a cool title, but I think we decided that was taken by like a band or something, something out there. So just for Google reasons, it's like, no, we can't do that title. But yeah, there were a few other titles that I think would have worked, but Downcast made a lot of sense. There's something too with it, just you know, Downcast, Sweetcast,
Yeah.
so that actually for branding, not intentional, but it has actually been really good because people associate me with Sweetcast, with Downcast, and so it really unites all the, all of my properties together. So it's been nice, actually.
So when you get to the Dracula book, you're gonna have to call it like Bloodcast or something, just to.
Cat, but yeah, isn't that's a real thing, huh? Bloodcast is when there's like spatter or whatever. I think
Yes.
it's yeah. Yeah, we're working on Dracula, but I think for that it's like I'm just gonna totally lean into exploiting my last name,
Yeah. Well, that was one of the that's one of the things that did come up on the show when we did have you on, because you hadn't done the ancestry thing yet, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you got to go in ancestry and see if you really are. You probably third, fifth cousin. Did you find out what the actual connection was?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna mess this up, but I think that we are 11th cousins 4 times removed.
But it still counts.
It still counts, and it's weird because it's not. I don't share my last name with him. Like the Stoker in my name doesn't go back to his Stoker, so it's actually through my mom's side, and it's sort of a strange journey up. But
That is weird.
yeah, it's very strange. But
but it still worked out. I mean, you got to figure it's somehow, your dad's chain will also loop back around. But, once you follow it through to make that happen, you have to live with the uncomfortable knowledge that your mother and father are related. And
right. Yeah. I don't want to find the connection there, but who knows? Yeah, it was really interesting to see. My mom's the one that actually, she's like, I looked it up and we are actually related. So I was like, I have to see this, I've got to do it on a stream. So yeah, I've got receipts and everything. So it's
very
pretty cool.
How is that book coming along? I mean, is it still planning stages? Are you doing any development work on it?
Yeah, I've been doing some scripting on it. I have an editor hired that's helping me with just the conceptual stage. I was a little bit further along and I had to stop it because I needed to make sure that, first we had Downcast that was already in production. So we had to get that one finished. Fatal clearly needs to get finished. We got to ship that out. So Dracula I put on hold just so I could get, these 2 other books completed and out. So that's where we're at now. But I've told people that Dracula is the next book. So if Downcast 3 does well, hopefully I'll have some seed money and I can start production on Dracula, and we'll sort of move on to the next phase of crowdfunding.
Now, Fatal obviously still hasn't fulfilled. Did you have any hesitations about launching Downcast 3 because of this fact?
Absolutely, yeah. I worry about that all the time. I worried about it more before, but it's to me, it's just not the way that I want to run publishing. I want to have one book totally tied up, shipped out first. What it came down to is that I realized that the delays that we were having, Charlie had asked for more time, and so it was hard. His wife has cancer. It has kind of complicated things.
Sure.
And so at the same time, Downcast was finished. So it feels really bad to have a finished book that's just sitting there. It's not like we needed more time to produce it or anything. It's just, it's finished and we're waiting to ship it out. So I was hoping that between, Downcast being finished and the fact that I've already fulfilled 2 campaigns, that people will be understanding.
Yes.
And so far they have been. I still get a lot of questions about Fatal, which is totally justified. But yeah, I had a lot of pause. I was really unsure if I should have launched it.
Well, and again, like you said, it's not like Fatal was your first book.
Yeah.
You do a track record to base things off of, and it's pretty public knowledge that your artist is going through some stuff right now. So
yeah,
I don't think any company, if you had another book ready to go, would sit there and say, no, we've got to wait for this to finish up here before we take the next step.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you did. And obviously, the dollars are showing that people are behind you so far. Not from this show, they're not, because it hasn't moved an inch since you came on here. So I have not helped you at all You've wasted your complete time here.
It's all good. Seriously, once you get into this stage of the campaign, it slows down, and we've still had like 10 new backers today. So, but it's you kind of just have to be very relaxed about it. You still get out there and promote, but don't stress about it.
Yeah. Now are you offering 1 and 2 in any version on here since they are available through Alterna?
Yeah. So not the Alterna. Well, I have Alterna, the number 1, if you want a signed copy of the Alterna version. But if you want the crowdfunded versions, I sold out of number 1s. So I did a reprint. So it's actually volume 1 and volume 2 combined. So you're talking 120 page graphic novel, and you can add it on to any tier. So you can be a new reader anywhere.
Excellent.
But I do have a tier that specifically says new readers, just to make it simple. So you can get back that you'll get the reprint along with Downcast 3.
All right. So you got 2 different covers so far. Are you going to have a third cover coming up at any time? I know a lot of times it's one or the other.
Yeah, just the 2 covers. I think I like to stick, especially with Downcast, I like to stick with 2 covers, and that's the max. With Fatal, we've considered bringing out a third cover, pretty seriously sometimes, and we still might. That's a potential, but for now, I don't know. I think 2 covers is a pretty good place to be.
And you've gone with the T-shirts routes this time as well.
Yep, T-shirts. They're also an add-on. So I know we have 2 ordered up front, but we've got several more that have been ordered as add-ons with other tiers. So that's been really nice to see. I'd like doing T-shirts. I just want to get the right supplier that does them how I want them.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Why did you leave the title logo off the T-shirt design?
It was mainly just about making it be about the artwork. I could put it on, and I've considered like putting it on the back or something. That would probably be the smart branding thing to do.
Well, because that gives people something to Google. I always say that when people do stickers, I'm like, yeah, your character is great, but nobody loves your character yet. Put your logo somewhere, even if it's in the background of the character, so that Joe Blow walks past, says, "Well, that's a really cool looking character. I wonder what Downcast is."
Right.
It gives them something to type.
Totally. I get that. I think I don't know. It was just a decision, and I think if I could go back, I would probably add it. I think you are right. Now it's on the T-shirt though, so I don't know if I can change it.
Well, if they haven't printed the T-shirts yet, you could, but that's
yeah. I mean, adding it on the back would be a good option.
There you go. Because then you can leave the tier alone here, and then just over here on the left side where everything's bigger, say, oh, by the way, here's the back of the shirt.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or even on the sleeve or something. Darth Bobcat has high hopes for you right now. He wants to know, is comics your main income source at this point?
No, it's not. I wish it was, but at this point, I still am really in growth phase, and so I've been reinvesting a lot of money. Fatal made a lot of money, but to be honest, Charlie's also a really expensive artist, so
sure.
It's not. It hasn't been like I'm lining my pockets or anything. It's been a nice side gig, though. I try to make sure that I always get paid with every book, so that way it's worth my effort. But yeah, a lot of the money I'm just putting right into the next book so we can keep production going.
And you also have an option here for a novel that you've written, All For Owen, which has an interesting sort of plague mask cover on it, which is timely since we just came out of the plague.
Right. It's not an ash can. It's a full novel, not graphic novel. It's just a novel. It's one that I published in 2011. It's like over 300 pages novel. So I just figured a lot of people were doing ash cans or other story content. So I thought I would do All For Owen. That way, people have a shot to get it. We did a brand new cover for it for the campaign. And I don't know, I like the idea of people getting a little bit more for their money if you're going to pay for a package to get to you, especially if you're living in the UK or something. You're going to get a whole lot of entertainment with only one shipping cost.
Yeah, definitely get as much as you can in the box, because it doesn't go up that much.
Yeah.
Well, it does. I'm saying this from the shipping perspective again. When somebody says, "Well, look, my book is only going to weigh, a pound and a half," and I'm like, "Yeah," and your Gemini mailer with a label on it and tape weighs 5.2 ounces, and they're like, "You weighed the box?" I'm like, "Your post office is going to weigh the box."
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So if you come out at like a pound and 15 ounces, I'm like, "No, you say that you're over 2 pounds. You don't want to be surprised in the very end." Especially if you do something silly like say, "Oh, I've decided to make we hit a stretch goal. Now all the covers are going to be metal."
Yeah.
Like, what? That's heavy.
Yeah. Or you add pages or just extra prints and, trading cards, they're pretty thick. You get a stack of trading cards. I mean, yeah, you got to be careful.
Everything has mass. And if you exceed, what your estimates was for your shipping, that's on you. That comes out of your profit.
Right.
I always say, estimate to the next pound, and price accordingly. If it comes out to be slightly under that, nobody's really going to complain if you were 50 cents over on your shipping, what it really should have been. They complain when it's like $7 over what the shipping should have cost.
Right.
So, go ahead and give yourself a cushion, folks. It's okay.
Right.
Now you do have the $100 Alterna sketch cover here. One has been claimed. There's no limit on these. Who's doing the sketching?
It's me.
You.
So yeah, I did that sketch. So I wanted to have a good example, but yeah, I mean, it's really, honestly, it's an outlet for people that want to support more, like at $100. So you get something unique, you get something original. It's my art, so take it for what it is. But yeah, I don't know. So far we've had one taker. And I don't know, it's something I learned from Ethan Van Sciver. He just said, put a sketch up there and make it $100, because you never know who wants to just give you $100.
and there it is. Was it Daphne Lage was talking on one channel? She's like, I sell my artwork. I have a piece of artwork. I'm going to sell it for $1 million. Like, no, but I only need one. I only need one customer.
Yeah.
And there's that customer could be looking at me right now. So, and then of course, you look at, you look at how you undersell yourself here, Clint. This speaks to low self-image right here. $100 for Clint Stoker personal sketch, $1,000 for the original cover by Matt Weldon.
Yeah. That is just a whole different animal. But yeah, it's one thing having the original cover, one and only. That's pretty cool. Matt Weldon's a fantastic artist, especially
Indeed.
For original art. There's nothing like, when you see it in person, it's just so cool because you see all the little fine detail that he's put in that I don't think you can really see any other way. So it is pretty cool. I've always sold his for $1,000, and every time that's because I think, if no one buys this, then I'll keep it. It's fine with me. But we'll see. So far, we've always sold it, and the campaign is young. If someone buys it for $1,000, that'll really help us out. So we'll see.
Now you're doing your own interior artwork, is that correct? Or is somebody else doing the interior?
I'm doing a little bit. I'm doing this 8-page story.
Okay.
So
was that always the case?
No, I kept sort of waffling it back and forth if I should do it or not. I'm definitely learning as an artist, and so to me, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. And I'd say that on a video or live stream, and again, my viewers say, no, we want to see what you can draw. It's just a backup story, So yeah, so do it.
I can tell you from the sketch cover here, when it comes to writers doing sketch covers, I'd much rather have Clint Stoker do a sketch cover than Tom King do a sketch cover, because I've seen his sketch covers as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll take that compliment.
Yeah, but okay, I've compared you to Tom King. Come on, now that's not
Yeah.
exactly damning with faint praise if ever it was. Uh, all right, so folks, if you want to get in on Downcast 3, first of all, don't search on it the way that Heroinberg typed it into the chat here, because he went with what I said not to do, which was he took the logo that I designed just for a card. There are no threes in the Submerged.
Love it.
But if you want to do that, go right ahead. I don't care. I'll send you the PowerPoint that I made it with. But the link, the easiest way to get to it is the link, which is right below the video in the description. We encourage you to click on that and get your copy of this now, because this is going to go 27 days more, and then 2 weeks beyond that. You're not going to go a full 60 days.
No.
And then it's going to fulfill. So, and nobody's still done it yet, but it's late now. So
Yeah.
they'll catch it on the replay. Clint, is there anything about Downcast especially Volume 3 here, that you haven't been able to talk about yet? Nobody's asked the right question.
No, I think that's the pitch. It's a really exciting story. I think it really shows some growth in both me and Nacho as a creative team, and respectively with our own craft. If you like Downcast 1 and 2, I think you're going to love Downcast 3. Maybe you've read any of it at all, you're a new reader. I think this is cool because you know that you have a lot to sink your teeth into as far as the story goes. We're trying to build a pretty epic world and do some really fun stuff with the story. So check it out. Give us a shot.
All right, folks, click on the link. Go out there and get Downcast Submerged. I stumbled over my words for a minute. And if you want to see more of Clint, he's always on his own channel. Right now, he's on everybody's channel, but click on the link to his YouTube channel. Subscribe. You'll get some interesting takes on the comic industry as well. Clint, thank you so much for bringing Downcast to us tonight and walking us through this world that you've created.
Thanks for having me.
Folks in the chat, always appreciate you being here. We don't have a show without you. And as always, we just hope that you came here